The morning my daughter lost everything, the sun was shining like it was any normal day. Birds were singing, children were laughing on the street. But in front of my old white house, my daughter Anna stood frozen on the porch, her hand shaking as she tried her key again and again. Click. Nothing. She frowned and pushed the door harder. The key did not turn. The locks had been changed. Mom, she called, her voice sharp and annoyed. This is not funny. Open the door. There was no answer. The curtains in the living room were gone. The flower pot she bought last month was not by the door anymore. The small mat that said, "Welcome home," was missing. Everything that made it, our home, was gone. Her husband, Mark, walked up behind her, holding a takeaway coffee. Maybe she went for a walk, he said, trying to sound calm. No, she wouldn't go out this early, Anna snapped. She knows I'm coming. She has to be inside. She stepped back and looked at the house with growing fear. The front window was empty. No pictures. No vase. No old rocking chair. It looked like a hollow shell. Then she saw it. A thick white paper, taped to the front door at eye level. Her hands shook as she peeled it off. Her eyes moved quickly over the black letters. Her mouth dropped open. Anna, what is it? Mark asked, stepping closer. She did not answer right away. Her face turned pale, then red, then pale again. Her eyes filled with tears and anger at the same time. This can't be real, she whispered. She wouldn't do this. She can't do this. Mark took the paper from her hand and read it slowly. It was a legal notice. The house had been sold. The new owner's name was written clearly. My name, Margaret Lewis. Me, the old witch, she was waiting to die. At the bottom of the paper was a short note, written in my neat, slow handwriting. Anna, by the time you read this, I will be gone. The house will be gone too. You will understand why one day. Or maybe you won't. Mom. Anna stepped back like someone had hit her. She took the house, she whispered. She really took the house. Mark stared at the paper, then at the empty windows. Where did she go? He asked quietly. And why would she do this? Anna slowly lifted her phone. Her thumb hovered over the screen. In her eyes, there was something more than anger. There was fear, guilt, a memory. Because she knew. She knew exactly why I left. It started the night before, when she picked up her phone, typed a message, and hit send without checking the name at the top. A message that was not meant for me. A message that landed right in my hands. I was sitting in my room that night, alone in the dark, with my reading glasses on and my old phone charging beside me. I heard the small ping, and reached for it slowly. My fingers were stiff, but I had learned how to open messages. I thought it was another bank alert or some silly ad. Instead, I saw my daughter's name. I smiled at first. Then I opened the message. My eyes moved over each word like they were knives. When will that old witch finally die? I am tired of her face in this house. For a moment, I thought I had read it wrong. I took off my glasses, wiped them, and put them back on. My hands started to shake. My heart beat so fast I could feel it in my throat. I read it again, every word, slowly, clearly. When will that old witch finally die? My daughter, talking about me, to her husband, but she had sent it to the wrong person. She had sent it to me. My vision blurred with tears. The room felt smaller. The walls felt closer. My chest hurt so much I could barely breathe. If you were me, what would you do? Would you cry, scream, forgive, pretend you never saw it? I did none of those things. I wiped my tears. I stood up slowly, and in that quiet, painful night, I made a decision that would change all our lives. The next thing I did, before I slept, was pick up the old folder my husband had left in the wardrobe. Inside it were papers, keys, and one secret Anna never knew about. I opened it, saw what was inside, and whispered to myself in the dark. So you're waiting for the old witch to die. That was the moment I decided what I would do in the morning. And as I held those papers in my shaking hands, I knew exactly how I would disappear from their lives, and take the house with me. The night I read that message, I felt something inside me break. It wasn't a loud break. It wasn't dramatic. It was quiet, like a soft tear in the heart that spreads and spreads until you can't fix it anymore. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at my phone, feeling my whole body tremble. My daughter Anna, the same girl I carried for 9 months, the same girl whose hair I braided for school, whose tears I wiped when she scraped her knees, had typed those words. When will that old witch finally die? Me, her mother, the woman who raised her alone after her father died. I didn't cry out loud. I didn't call her. I didn't text back. I simply sat still as the truth fell on me like cold rain. My husband's old folder lay open beside me. Inside it were things Anna never understood: legal documents, savings, property papers. Things her father had quietly protected because he knew life can turn dark when you least expect it. I pulled out the document for the house. The house we lived in together. The house she thought would one day be hers. She never knew the house was never in her name. She never knew that her husband had once tried to convince me to add his name to the papers. She never knew how many times I said no, because something in my spirit whispered that I must not. And now, I understood why. By 4 a.m., I had packed my 2 bags. Just clothes, a few old pictures, and the folder. Nothing more. Not a single item from the living room. Not a single spoon from the kitchen. I didn't want anything that carried her anger. I waited until the house was quiet. I knew Anna and Mark would be asleep. They always slept with their door closed, and they snored softly like 2 heavy bears. I wrapped my shawl around my shoulders and walked down the hallway. The wooden floor creaked softly under my feet, like it was whispering goodbye. I paused by Anna's door, not to say goodbye, but to listen. She was laughing in her dreams. Isn't it strange? She slept peacefully while her mother sat awake with a broken heart. By sunrise, I was gone. I locked the door behind me and walked to the taxi I had ordered. The driver helped me with my bags and asked politely, "Mama, where to?" "City Center," I said softly. "Next to the lawyer's office." When the sun rose fully, I was already sitting in a lawyer's chair, signing papers, transferring ownership, and sealing my disappearance. "Are you sure about this, Mrs. Lewis?" the lawyer asked gently. I took a deep breath. "Yes," I said. "She doesn't want me anymore." He nodded slowly. "Then the house will legally belong only to you. And if you choose to sell it." "I will," I said, finishing his sentence. "Today." He didn't question me. He just carried on with his work, printing papers, stamping signatures, sliding documents across the table. By noon, everything was done. My bags were beside me. My heart felt heavy, but my mind was clear. Sometimes pain forces you to make the strongest choices of your life. At exactly 1 p.m., I placed the old house key on the lawyer's table. The house was no longer mine. And if Anna thought she could walk back in after calling her mother a witch, she would only find empty rooms and a new owner's name on the door. I stepped outside into the bright afternoon sun and felt the strange freedom that comes when a wound begins to close, even if it still hurts. But as I walked down the street toward the bus station, ready to start a new life far from their unkindness, something happened that tightened my chest. A black car, one I had never seen before, pulled up beside me. The tinted window rolled down slowly. A deep voice spoke my name. "Margaret Lewis, we need to talk." I froze in the middle of the sidewalk, my heart pounding. Because I recognized the voice. It belonged to someone I hadn't heard in years. And someone who should not have known where I was. The door of the car opened. "Get in. It's important." My legs felt weak. What I didn't know then was this. Leaving my daughter wasn't the end of the story. It was the beginning of a secret her father had hoped I'd never face. And now, it had found me. I stared at the open car door, my breath caught somewhere between my chest and my throat. The street around me kept moving, people walking, buses honking, children laughing, but to me, everything suddenly felt strange and quiet. The man in the back seat leaned forward just enough for me to see the shape of his face. His eyes were hidden behind dark glasses, but his voice, I knew that voice. It was the voice of my late husband's closest friend, Daniel. A man I had not seen since my husband's funeral. A man who disappeared right after the burial without a single goodbye. "Margaret," he said again. "Please get in. It's about your husband." My legs felt weak, like they were made of paper. I clutched my small bag to my chest and took a slow step backward. "My husband is dead," I said firmly. "There's nothing left to talk about." Daniel shook his head. That's exactly why we must talk. My heart thumped harder. Something wasn't right. The look on his face wasn't friendly. It wasn't comforting. It was urgent, heavy. Madam, the driver said softly, we won't harm you. But you need to come with us. There are things you don't know. I shouldn't have moved closer. I shouldn't have looked inside. But something in me needed answers, especially now that my world had fallen apart. So, with a trembling breath, I stepped forward and sat carefully inside the car. The door closed. The city sounds faded. And suddenly, I felt trapped. Daniel took off his dark glasses. His eyes were tired, older than I remembered. Your husband trusted you more than you know, he said quietly. And he left something behind for you. Something dangerous. A cold shiver went through me. What are you talking about? He leaned closer. The folder you took, the one from his closet. It wasn't just about the house. It holds information people would do anything to get. I clutched my bag tighter. It was just documents. Old papers. Not old, Daniel corrected. Hidden. I blinked, confused. Hidden from who? Daniel sighed and rubbed his forehead. Your husband owed people. People who don't forgive debts. People who think you now know everything he was protecting. My mouth went dry. But I don't know anything. He looked at me sadly. They won't believe that. My pulse quickened. My husband. The quiet man who loved gardening. The man who kept recipes taped to the fridge. What secrets could he possibly have had? Listen, Margaret, Daniel said. You running from your daughter, that's nothing. What's coming next is bigger than anything you expect. My breath caught. What do you mean? What's coming? He opened his mouth to answer, but just then, a loud bang hit the side of the car. The whole vehicle shook. The driver yelled, hold on. My heart leapt into my throat. What was that? Daniel's eyes widened. They found us. Already. Before I could even ask who they were, the second bang came. Stronger. Closer. The driver sped forward, the tires screeching across the road. Cars honked. People screamed. I grabbed the seat, shaking. What's happening? Daniel pulled me down. Get down, Margaret, now. My head was spinning, my heart racing faster than I'd ever felt. Someone was after us, after me, and I had no idea why. The car swerved sharply, and I felt my body slam against the seat. Outside, a dark van pulled up beside us. A masked man leaned out the window. He pointed something black, something aimed at me. Daniel, I whispered, my voice cracking. What is that? Who are these people? His answer made my blood run cold. They want what your husband left behind. The car jerked again as the driver tried to escape the van. But the van didn't slow. It moved closer, closer, almost touching us. Daniel grabbed my arm. Margaret, whatever happens, do not let go of that folder. Then the van slammed into our car with full force. The impact threw my body sideways, and for a moment, everything became a blur of noise and shaking metal. I couldn't tell if I screamed or if the sound I heard was only the crushing of the car door. The driver fought to keep the wheel steady, but the van rammed us again, harder this time. Hold on, he shouted, but the road seemed to slip out from under us. Daniel pushed me down to the floor of the back seat. Keep your head down, Margaret. Don't look up. My hands trembled as I clutched my bag, the same bag holding my husband's folder. I didn't even know what was inside that could cause this kind of chaos. I didn't understand why strangers were risking their lives chasing me. And I didn't know why Daniel, someone I hadn't seen in years, knew exactly what was happening. All I knew was fear. Cold, sharp fear. The van rammed us again. The driver lost control. The car swerved off the main road. I heard horns blaring, tires screeching, people shouting. Then, a sudden, violent jolt. We crashed into something hard. The world stopped moving. For a moment, all I could hear was my heartbeat. Thump, thump, thump. I slowly raised my head. Smoke filled the inside of the car. The windshield was cracked. The front of the car was crushed into a cement barrier. The driver's shoulders slumped forward, but he was breathing. Are you okay? Daniel asked, his voice sharp with panic. I think so, I whispered, my voice shaking. He grabbed my shoulders firmly. We need to get out. Now. But before we could move, we heard it. Car doors slamming. Boots hitting the ground. Multiple footsteps. Coming toward us. Daniel peeked through the cracked window, his jaw tightening. They're surrounding the car. The fear inside me grew into something almost too big to hold. They want the folder, I whispered. But why? What's in it, Daniel? What did my husband do? Daniel didn't have time to answer. He reached across me and unlocked the opposite door. We run for the alley. Stay behind me. Do not stop. Do you hear me? Before I could respond, the back window shattered. Glass rained down on my shoulders. I gasped and covered my head. Through the broken glass, I saw masked men approaching. One pointed at me, and shouted, "The old woman. She has it." My stomach dropped. Everything felt unreal. Daniel pulled me out the opposite door. "Run, Margaret, run." My legs felt weak, but the fear pushed me forward. I followed Daniel through the smoke, stumbling onto the pavement. The air outside was hot, filled with dust and shouting. We raced toward a small alley between two buildings. My heart pounded like it might burst. But just as we reached the alley entrance, a tall man stepped into our path. He wasn't masked like the others. He wore a long black coat. And he smiled, a slow, chilling smile that made my blood run cold. "I knew you'd come this way," he said softly. Daniel stepped in front of me. "Stay back." The man tilted his head. Daniel, always trying to be the hero. His eyes slid past him and landed on me. "Margaret, we've been waiting to meet you." My hands clutched the bag tighter. "What do you want from me?" He took a slow step forward. "Not you," he said. "What your husband left behind." I shook my head. "I don't understand." "You will," he interrupted. "But not here." He snapped his fingers. Two masked men appeared behind us, blocking our escape. Daniel cursed under his breath. "Margaret, don't let them take the bag. No matter what." My heart pounded so hard I could barely hear my own breath. The alley felt smaller and smaller. Trapped. Caged. The man in the coat raised his hand toward me. "Give it to me," he whispered. I stepped backward until my back hit the wall. "No," I whispered. "Never." His smile vanished. "In that case," he said quietly, "we'll take you." He reached for me. And suddenly, a loud roar echoed through the alley. A motorcycle engine. Fast. Close. Before any of us could react, a black motorcycle burst into the alley at full speed. The rider leaned down, grabbed my wrist, and shouted, "Mrs. Lewis, get on." My mouth fell open in shock. Daniel yelled, "Go with him." The masked men lunged forward. The rider pulled me hard toward the bike. Everything spun. I had no idea who this new person was. I had no idea where we were going. But as the engine roared and the bike shot forward, I realized something terrifying. Someone else was also looking for me. Someone who knew exactly where to find me. And someone who might not be on Daniel's side at all. The motorcycle shot out of the alley so fast that the wind felt like sharp knives against my face. I held onto the stranger's jacket with shaking hands, my heart pounding so loudly I could barely hear the engine. Behind us, the masked men shouted and scrambled, but the bike was already gone. "Who are you?" I yelled over the roaring wind. The rider didn't answer at first. He leaned the bike hard around a corner, dodging a parked truck and speeding into an empty road outside the city. Only when we were far from the chaos did he speak. "I'm someone your husband trusted," he said calmly. "Someone who was supposed to protect you." My breath caught. First Daniel, now this. "What are you talking about?" My husband was a quiet man. A simple man. He wasn't involved in anything dangerous. The rider's voice softened. "He wasn't simple, Mrs. Lewis. He just hid things to keep you safe." My hands tightened on his jacket. "Safe from what?" He didn't answer. Instead, he sped up again, heading toward an abandoned warehouse at the edge of town. My stomach twisted with fear. "Why are we here?" I whispered. "It's the only safe place left," he said, parking the motorcycle inside the quiet, dusty building. He helped me off the bike. My legs were shaking so badly I nearly fell. The warehouse was silent, empty. Sunlight broke through broken windows, painting long lines across the floor. The rider took off his helmet. He was young, maybe in his late 20s. Kind eyes. A serious face. "My name is Lucas," he said. "Your husband hired me years ago." He told me that if anything ever happened to him, anything, I was to protect you. But I was never supposed to reveal myself unless it was absolutely necessary. Necessary, like now, I whispered. He nodded. Those men chasing you, they want the last thing your husband ever tried to hide. I clutched my bag. This folder. Yes, Lucas said. Inside. That folder is proof of something your husband uncovered, something dangerous involving the men who now want you dead. He tried to expose them, but they found out. He protected you by keeping you in the dark. My heart squeezed painfully. So, he didn't die by accident. Lucas hesitated. Then he shook his head. No, he was killed. I gasped and covered my mouth. Tears filled my eyes instantly. All this time, all these years, I thought he collapsed from work stress. I thought. Lucas stepped closer, his voice gentle. He died protecting you, Mrs. Lewis. The pain hit me like a punch. I sank to the floor and cried. Cried for my husband. Cried for the life I never understood. Cried for the daughter who didn't want me. Lucas let me cry. He didn't rush me. He didn't speak. When I finally wiped my tears, I whispered, why didn't he tell me? Why lie? Why hide so much? Lucas crouched in front of me. If you knew the truth, those men would have come sooner. Your husband wanted you to live in peace, even if it meant living without answers. I nodded slowly, holding the folder against my chest. So what happens now? I whispered. Lucas looked away for a moment, thinking. Now, he said, you disappear. Completely. Just like your husband planned. I blinked. Disappear. Forever. For your safety, Lucas said. The house is already gone. You changed the locks. You sold it. That was your first step. Now you must start a new life, far from Anna, far from Mark, far from anyone who could lead danger back to you. My throat tightened. Anna, she'll think I abandoned her. Lucas looked at me with honest eyes. She already abandoned you with those words, Mrs. Lewis. And if she knew about this. He pointed at the folder. She would be in danger too. I swallowed hard. He was right. My daughter didn't want me, but I still wanted her safe. Where will I go? I whispered. Lucas gave a small smile. Somewhere peaceful. Somewhere safe. Your husband left money for this, hidden funds only I can access. You will live comfortably, quietly. No one will ever hurt you again. I slowly stood up. My heart was heavy, but strangely calm. This was the end of my old life. The end of the mother Anna used to know. Lucas walked me to the motorcycle again. Are you ready? He asked gently. I took a deep breath. Yes. Before I climbed on, I looked back once, just once, at the empty warehouse, at the dusty sunlight, at the life I was leaving behind. And I whispered to myself. One day Anna will understand. Or maybe she won't. But I will live. I deserve that. Lucas started the engine. We drove toward the unknown. And from that day on, I disappeared from their lives. Forever.